Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am PANCZASU, teaching you the basics of Endless Space 2. I was thinking for a long time on what kind of content do I want to provide before Endless Space 2 goes live on early access. My initial idea was to just record a bunch of first stance guides for each of the factions that are currently present in the game. The problem with that being, well, this game is, about to reach early access. The changes made to this game are very frequent. It's in a constant state of flux, and balance or game mechanics, it all changes on a whim. So making a first stance guide, even for alpha players, would be somewhat meaningless, I fear. Instead, I decided to incorporate that into a playthrough. So this will be similar to my usual playthroughs, what you're about to see, except with a lot of more talking. So I will progress through the turns slower, explaining all of the basics of Endless Space 2, explaining the differences between this game and Endless Space 1 or Endless Legend. Like, it was a step above in terms of difficulty and advancement from my previous basic tutorial video for Endless Space 2, but not quite on the level of, let's say, a first stance guides. It's somewhere in the between. I hope you get what I mean. I'll basically tell you what to do in order to win this game, and it's currently in this game there is a 50 turn limit. You have to win by 10-50, and you do this either by military victory or by skull victory. Most frequently it's going to be skull victory, because 50 turns on fast speed is really not a lot. It's 100 turns on normal, and so on and so forth. The turn limit adjusts to your speed, so there's no getting around it. There are some exploits that allow you to extend your play session, but I'm not gonna teach you those exploits. Anyway, I'm going to start by playing as Sophons. Why Sophons? Because they are the most straightforward race, and I believe that if you are a rookie coming to Endless Space 2, then Sophons are the most rookie-friendly faction. They are very easy to play as they have very powerful bonuses, but they're not overly complex. If you have a look at what they have, well, I won't go through every ship they can command, especially since most of you probably will not even see the Iota class in this 50 turn limit because of the 50 turn limit. But basically, I'll just show you what those guys are about as we get into the game. No reason to talk about it now. You probably don't even know too much about Endless Space 2 anyway, so this would be kind of pointless. I'll just show you the kind of game we're going to have. It's going to be a tiny sized galaxy with just one AI, because again, I'm going to try to teach you the basics of this game, so I want to keep it short and nice and simple, keep everything civil. I'm going to set the resource abundance to low, because as I said in my previous video, that's how I like playing the game. I think it makes it more interesting, especially since there are some ways, alternative ways you can gain resources in this game that are different to previous games. One other thing is I'm going to lower the minor faction difficulty from hard to random. Why? Because even on endless difficulty, the AI has difficulties fighting against minor faction difficulty on anything other than anything above normal, actually. But for some reason, this change is not being incorporated into the way I want to play, which is awkward and kind of weird. Troublesome. Well, we will see. Doesn't matter. I'm going to teach you how to play, not have a good competitive match against AI, because AI is still learning. It's not very good. It's very unlikely you will have any difficulties beating it if you follow my guidance. So let's go ahead and start the game, shall we? Have been talking for long enough. Almost 4 minutes, in fact. Wow, that's really long. Not really. Anyway, let me drink a little bit of water as we get into the game. I'll skip the cutscene. So this is our beautiful galaxy. What are the first things you will need to do as soon as you spawn into the game? What I like to do is, first of all, look at my setting system. It's a good idea to know what kind of system you have. Mine is kind of rubbish. Gas giants are hard to colonize, and in fact I'm pretty sure you cannot colonize them in this public version. Let me just quickly check to see if I'm not making any mistakes. No, you cannot colonize gas giants in the public version. So yeah, they are kind of meaningless to you, except for perhaps curiosities. Curiosities are also two thingies, by the way, in case you have forgotten. Ashes you can colonize in the public version, but it's rare that you will actually get to do that, except Sophons could, but it's still fairly rare. So this system is kind of meaningless. Only my home planet will be useful in here. We start with two types of population, one being the Epistis, I have no idea how to pronounce that, and one being our trusty Sophons. Epistis are actually a very nice addition to our empire. They help you grow your plants, and I tend to use them quite frequently when building up, but we'll get to that point. First of all, what I wanted to check is to see if my planet has any curiosities, and it does. In fact, it has 2 curiosities, which is more than average. On average, your home planet will have 1 or no curiosities whatsoever. If my planet had no curiosities, what I would do is I would use my detector and send probes in the direction of nearby systems. As you can see, my system is currently bothering 3 other systems. Because I am a Sophon, I have my custom affinity, which allows me to see the end of the routes. Regular empires don't know how long the connecting routes are to the neighboring systems. I do. I know that it's a very short distance to this system right here, so I'll probably send my colony ship over there. I know it's a short distance to this system over there, so I might send my scout over there. And I know that in here, if you look very closely, there is a minor faction in this system, so I probably want to stay away from it for the time being, since I cannot do anything in there anyway. Playing as the Sophons really gives you a very powerful advantage early on in the game that you want to make a good use of, let's just put it this way. If there were more nodes that I weren't sure what they connect to, I would use my probe and launch it in the direction of a node that I knew I wouldn't have the ships to explore. Let's say there was no minor faction in here, I would set a probe to tell me what kind of system there is, but I don't need to do that right now. Instead, I'm going to zoom out slightly and explore what is on my home planet. Let's have a quick look at both of the curiosities. Okay, so the first curiosity gives me a ton of influence, which is a very nice and welcome thing. Unfortunately, as the Sophons, it will take you a long time before you can do anything meaningful with influence, because of our starting government type and science, the kind of laws we'll have access to, but we'll get to that later. Now, the other curiosity we found is, well, apparently nothing whatsoever. Huh. I didn't know that our home planet looks like a moon either, but that's, I suppose, how it is. It's kind of amusing. Anyway, so there is nothing really interesting on our planet. We'll gain some influence, which will be useful later, but for now, nothing really important. So let's send our scout on the longer journey, and let's set our colony ship on a shorter journey. As you can see, both of the ships managed to make their way to those systems with no problem at all. Don't expect to have the same results with any other faction. In fact, the Sophons have some of the faster ships. If you have a look at what we have fast travelers too, which gives us extra 2 movement points. It's quite a substantial bonus that we'll also try to abuse as much as humanly possible. Now, this system is also very important. Why? Because we have, by complete accident, where the balls is it? There we go. Found that this system harbors so-called academy. Academy is a place where heroes go. If you want to hire heroes for your empire, well, no matter what race they are from, all heroes come from the academy. This also is a way for Amplitude to explain why you can have heroes from nations or from races that you have never met before. It's because the academy is a cradle of all the most different random races you could possibly imagine to find in the galaxy. Some of those races may not even be a proper empire, just races on their own, and this group of weirdos always lives in the academy. You don't have to find the academy to hire new heroes. However, finding it is important. Why? Because if I colonize this system, then I'll gain access to the Academy's intel, and I'll be able to tell where every single hero in the galaxy is, what every single hero in the galaxy is doing, which, as you might imagine, will be a very good bonus to your power later on in the game as as multiplayer gets added, because right now obviously there's no multiplayer in early access yet. But as you can see, right now I have no access to the Academy, and I never will, because the only planet in the Academy system is a gas giant. It doesn't matter which planet you colonize in the Academy system. If you colonize any of them, you gain access to the Academy. It's that simple. Anyway, there's no way you can colonize on Acleon, but what about Genimals? Let's have a quick look. I don't really care about the intros, because I know all of the planet types by heart. Sometimes I watch them because they are pretty, but that's about it. 2 tropicals, 1 jungle. Thankfully, none of those are very difficult to colonize. If we have a look at our, science thingamajig, and have a look over here, as you can see, we can colonize tropicals very easily. So we can colonize this system without too much of a problem. And there are 2 planets that I can colonize right away, which is also rather fantastic. So I'm going to have my colony ship move back to this system, especially since all the other systems are very far away from where I am right now. So let's go ahead and move over in this direction. Meanwhile, I'm going to have my detector continue along the journey and try to uncover what is in this particular region. It will take him a while to get there, but that's fine. Now, the next thing I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and look at my research. Now, the Sophons are very powerful for another reason as well. They start with a government tab, in fact I'll show it to you, that already has a law enacted called the Oracle of Science, which gives you access to one era ahead of everybody. Say you're in era 1, congratulations, you can also research things from era 2. Normal factions don't have this unlocked, unless they of course reach this era normally, or unless they have a government that also allows them to erect the Oracle of Science. Sophon start with that, again, a very powerful bonus. However, don't get too enthusiastic with that. Just because you have access to later technologies that are obviously more powerful doesn't mean you should research them too quickly. Why? Because let's say you want to improve your e-industry and you go ahead and go for impactless sites. As you can see, let's call this one, yeah, it does increases your industry generation, but it costs 100 industry to plop down, and its bonus is not very good for small empires. Meanwhile, in Era 1, as you can see, this thing is a little bit more costly, but it does give you a tremendous bonus if you have a newly established colony. So, as you can see, just because something is of a higher tier doesn't mean it's necessarily better for you. Starting empires usually cannot afford, their economies aren't developed enough to support anything outside from Era 1. However, the ability to access Era 2 does give you a ton of flexibility, so it's very nice to have as Sophons. Now, you may be wondering what those numbers are above some of the technologies, plus 12%, plus 50%, what is this? Well, it's very simple. As Sophons, yet another of our powerful abilities allows us to research unknown technologies faster. As you can see, if I wanted to research this technology, I would gain 50% bonus. Why? Because nobody else in the entire galaxy knows what this technology is all about. If nobody else knows it, then the Sophons get a massive bonus. This technology, well, the enemy already knows it, and as you can see, because half of the empires have access to this technology, only get 12% bonus of science to researching this technology. So as you can see, much smaller bonus. With your first technology, it doesn't matter. If I select this one, it will take me 2 turns to research it. If I select this one, again, 2 turns. Right now, both the technologies are extremely cheap, so no matter how I select, it will take me just 2 turns to research that. And one thing about Xenology, it's basically Mill Foundry from Endless Legend. I very frequently go for that because it is very helpful. However, it doesn't mean that it forms a holy trinity in Endless Space 2 like it did in Endless Legend. In fact, I have a different build order in mind when it comes to the Sophons. And this build order involves, first of all, researching the kind of colonizing technology that you need in order to colonize your next world. Sometimes you don't need it, sometimes you're lucky and you find worlds that you can colonize without any technologies. In my case, I found 2 jungles. So I want to research technology that gives me access to jungles. Additionally, the extra bonus is that I can move my ships between systems even if they are not connected by lanes. So I'll be able to move my system from this system. Let me try and say this again. I'll be able to move my ship from this system to this system even if they don't have a connection. It's a pretty powerful and nifty ability that makes a comeback from Endless Space 2. Finally, after doing that, I have access to my hero. As Sophons, well, our heroes are pretty good at science. Of course, they do start with a ship. It is a pretty nifty ship, it can fight, but it's not the most powerful fighter in the universe, so don't expect it to do any miracles for you. Still, it's more powerful than most other ships that you can find in early games, so you could, in theory, explore the galaxy with it. I don't bother. Instead, I use the other ability of this hero. This hero is, what's the name? A corporate, which means that if I assign him to a system, he gives me the extra science per population. If I assign him to a fleet, he gives me more fleet health. Now, having extra fleet health right now is meaningless to me, but having extra 2 science per population, and right now I have 4 populations, so having extra 8 science per turn, that's not meaningless at all. So I definitely want to assign this guy to my Lecking system. I can do that, for example, by clicking over here and assigning him as governor, nice and easy. By the way, your UI might look slightly different. I have enabled, I'll show you that real quick, in Options menu, in UI, I have disabled Force Low Definition UI. If you do that and apply, as you can see, the UI gets much smaller and it's a bit too small for me, so I prefer the other UI type, but you can customize that to your liking. So let's modify that back and head back into the game. Alright, do please keep an eye on the options menu. Options menus are important. Anyway, what do I want to do with my home system? Well, this might surprise you somewhat. Normally I would tell you that, hey, drone networks, it's a very cheap, very basic upgrade that gives you the necessary ingredients to start up your system. It's food and industry, so it will allow you to get your system up and running nice and quick. Also instead of 3 population, not 4, sorry. Super with the tank. Alternatively, you could go for super reality, which would be pretty stupid, but it would give you some extra dust and science. And not really something we want. Let's just put it this way. But what I'll do instead is queue up another incubator. I've been doing this a lot, in fact, for some time now. And starting with 3 as quickly as possible is a pretty powerful strategy in Endless Space 2. Why? You'll see that in a second. But for now, I have queued up everything. I'm ready to end my turn. And drink some more extra water while I'm ordering my ships to move. Alright then. So, let's colonize a planet, shall we? So a quick look over here. In fact, I should not have moved my scout ship just yet. I was just too hasty. Because I'd love to use my scout ship to tell me if there's anything extra on any of those planets. As you can see, they have curiosities that I could explore to tell me if there's anything better on any of those. But still, this planet is a large tropical, and both of them have some kind of luxury resource that I can harvest. So both of them are actually pretty good, but this one is larger. Larger planets means better planets in most cases, when those two planets are of the identical type. So let's colonize this one. Except, this colonization is going to take a while. By the way, some of you have been asking on the uploaded forums, where did the movies for colonization go? Because some of you remember that on Gamescom, if you send people to start an outpost on a planet, you would get a nice little cutscene, but well, you know, there's a lot of planets in Endless Space 2 and developers have something much more important to do with this game before it goes on early access than making sure that every planet type gets its unique, cutscene when you colonize it. So again, it's early access, alpha is alpha. Don't expect too much from this game. There are a lot of things you will not be able to find in here. If you are unsure if this game is complete enough for your enjoyment, don't buy it. Wait for a second. Only buy it if you're desperate enough to play it. I personally would because I'm a freak, but that doesn't mean I recommend the same to you. You have to make your own decision. Anyway, as you can see, I did not colonize this planet instantly. Instead, it became an outpost. Another empire can creep in, colonize this thing, and maybe even get an outpost up and running into a colony before I do, and then other empire will control the system. So, what does it mean for us? It means that it's important to start colonizing systems as quickly as possible, because just getting your colony ship to our system, it's not good enough anymore to start a new colony. It also takes sometimes a substantial amount of time. In this case, it takes a full sentence before this planet is actually in any way, shape or form useful for us. Which is quite a lot, as you might imagine. We can speed this process up by using dust, but dust, let me just tell you, if you use my strategy for Sophons, don't use that ever, because we'll need dust in very large quantities later on. You could use your, influence, there we go. I'm sorry, I forgot the name for a second. But again, I don't have enough of it, and it's a pretty hefty price if you ask me in early game, so you just have to wait. That's why I immediately started producing a new colony ship. In fact, considering how long the distances are between places, I should have equipped it with an additional engine. I don't always recommend that. I only equip my colony ships with extra engines if I see that, well, all other planets are very far away, like they are right now. But I didn't do that right now because I am too hasty when I record videos, I'm sorry. Anyway, research finished. Obviously, we colonized tropicals, that's why. So, obviously, the research finished. The next research we want is... Hold on a second. Okay, I'm sorry for that, I'm back. Anyway, the next research you want is usually, again, very dependent on how your game goes along. Again, this is always very tempting for me. I love extra industry. Extra industry is very important and very powerful, very useful for you as well, even considering the fact that we don't get as much of a boost when researching this technology, but it is a powerful technology regardless. However, what I'm more interested in is being able to colonize a third planet ASAP, and right now I don't see a candidate, so let's see if there are any systems that are suitable candidates. Over here we've got very cold places, but also steppes. It's medium-sized steppes, so not the best, with one curiosity, but it is something. And looky here, oh no, that's a tundra, my mistake, where are the steppes? There are the steppes. So we can go for this technology, which is actually very useful, because not only it will allow us to colonize those steppes, But initially it is also going to increase the movement points for our ships. And this is very crucial because if you want to have your free colonies up and running as quickly as possible, you need the colony ships to move faster. Again, you already started with fast ships, but you want to increase your advantage even further to get as many colonies as quickly as possible and make sure that the enemy, well, does not. It's as simple as that. I don't have any more movement, so there is that. That's all I can do for the time being. Of course, if there were some other systems with other plans that would be tempting, I would probably go for some other colonization technology. And if there were none, I would probably go for the xenobotany in chance of getting a tundra and also getting the extra movement points. That's very nice. Again, as tempting as this technology is, I would usually ask Sophons wait because it's essential to get your next colony up and running as quickly as possible. Especially since you're on a time limit. I'm not talking about the turn limit, I'm talking about the dust limit, but you'll see what happens as we get to that point. By the way, if you're not at how much I'm talking, again, I warned you, this is not my classical playthrough, and even my typical playthrough I talk a lot. This is something between first stance guide and a regular playthrough, so I'm going to teach you the game. If you don't like it, well, I suggest you don't watch it. Okay, at turn 3 every empire gets its faction quest going, so this is where it starts. Now, because we are on a turn limit, and because in this early access version you're gonna get, every AI is coded to be a warmonger. No matter what race you're gonna play as, sometime after you discover an AI, the AI will declare war on you. It always happens, it is guaranteed to happen. And because of that, going for a military version with Enfer, yeah, I think it's Enfer, is usually the best option because hardcore hulls, it lowers the cost for you to make new ships. You probably won't need too many ships to win the game anyway. The AI, as I said, still needs some improvements, but it's a useful upgrade nevertheless. Of course, there are others for you to discover. Personally, in this case where you are on a turn limit against warmongering AIs, I would say that military is the way to go. So let's go ahead and do it. Alrighty then, what else happened? New luxury resource discard, Dark Litter, that's very nice. Those luxuries will be useful later for us in system development plans, but for now we don't have the access to it, and it will stay this way for quite some time, I'm afraid. So, in Pavo, we already know Pavo, let's go ahead and look at the next system, but first of all, we might as well go ahead and explore the curiosity on the steppes. See if they're perhaps maybe a little bit better than we expected, and Castle Syndrome, that's actually means that I probably don't want to go ahead and colonize the steppes, because this makes this planet much worse than before. It is still a place to colonize, but I'd rather not. So let's go ahead and keep going and see what this system is all about. It's an asteroid belt. You can't colonize asteroid belts, but if you extend your influence to it, then you gain bonuses. Also, hello Cravers, the other Cravers. We're not going in that direction. The moment AI discovers you, you're on a timer before they attack you. I don't want them to attack me yet. I don't want to focus on military. I want to colonize a different planet. So, my colony ship is ready. The only problem being, I haven't discovered a really good place to colonize. There is the Steppes planet, and I might be forced to take it because going over there, it's risky. There might be nothing interesting in there. So I'm going to go in this direction and hope that maybe this system is a bit more interesting. There's also an additional benefit in colonizing Pavo. It's in the fact that it will serve as a border between me and the Cravers and allow me some time before they reach my home systems when we're at war, and we will inevitably be at war. Now, as for my core system, I'm going to go for drone networks. It's an essential improvement that you always need to get, and well, it took me a while to get it. It's 10.3 and I'm only studying it, but at the very least I have my new shining colony ship, which was very important in my honest opinion. So let's go ahead and finish the 10. I drank all my water, so I cannot drink it even though I really want to. But oh well, it happens. Let's go ahead and finish my movement. And Bani looks like a more promising system. It's a very large system with many planets, and I can colonize something on it. So what can I colonize? Let's check real quick. A tropical planet. That's very nice. It has no things on it, but it's a tropical. It's better than a Steppes planet, I would say. Anyway, also it's surrounded by a jungle planet that I'll probably gain access to in the near future anyway. So I'll be able to expand within the borders of the system as well. Also, there are 2 deserts and an ash planet, so none of those are particularly hospitable and will probably not record long enough to actually see us colonize those planets, but in the future versions of the game, that would be a nice place to colonize. So I'm going to tell my colony ship to keep going even further, all the way to Bani. Now, usually I would be very careful making that decision because that would take a long time before I can colonize a place, but still, I'm nevertheless okay with making this decision this time around. It's all for demonstration purposes anyway, and like I said, the AI is pretty bad so far. Let's check Osula real quick, maybe it's a bit better word. It's Veld, so it's a more colonizable planet, and there are areas around it. Areas are surprisingly hard to colonize, so I'm not too keen on this planet, and it's even further from my colony ship, but we'll see. Maybe, just maybe, it is worthwhile colonizing after I explore curiosities, but for now, my ship needs to restore its probes because we don't have enough probes. So have a quick look at our research. So what do we want? Normally, if I were able to colonize a third planet faster, and usually I am able to colonize a third planet faster. Right now we had bad luck, as I always do when I record, unfortunately, but if I were able to colonize a third planet faster, I would actually probably go for this research. Why? Because it allows you to create trading companies. Trading companies offer you enormous sums of dust, science, and even luxury resources if you set up a proper trade route between your own systems. It's a very powerful and relatively cheap way to enhance your economy, and trust me, you need that. You really, really will. Sadly, it will take a while before I can actually do anything with it. So let's think of other ways I can improve my economy. Of course, I can increase the industry, which will allow me to make more sectors faster, which is very nice, and I'm kind of tempted to grab it. Another alternative is to gain access to neurorobotics. Why? Because this gives us access to system development projects as well as it gives us extra, industry per planet. Although, as you can see, this upgrade costs much more than xeno-industrial infrastructure. That said, because I do have a decent amount, I don't have a decent amount dark leather. That was in a different playthrough, not this one. My mistake. Yeah, that's not very useful then. I'm just gonna go ahead and go for xenology. In some other cases, if I had a more useful luxury resource, or if I had more of it, I would go for neurorobotics. If I established my threat colony quicker, I would have gone for commercial frameworks. That's how it's called. In this case, I'm gonna go for xenology, and that is that. Let's end the turn. Now, because it will also take me a while before I establish my first trading network, and oh boy, this changes things. We met the Cravers, and they have set up the colony ASAP as well. That's a problem. In fact, it's a pretty big problem. So quick look what they have at their colony. Let's explore the curiosity of world work. Of course, it's a positive anomaly. They have 2 moons. Wow, lots of moons. That changed. That's a shame. In the old versions of this game that you never had a chance to see, the description for Table Moons was just, wow, lots of moons, which was kinda cute. Oh well, that's a problem. But thankfully, we have a growing military support in our government. This will be useful for us later on when we fight the Cravers. So, okay, well that gave us something, I suppose. Let's keep exploring. Maybe this system will have something interesting for my colony ship. In the meantime, my colony ship can keep going to Bani. Oh, Ingris. Oh, Ingris, it has some Hyperion. Hyperion is very useful, and it's on an atoll, so I could colonize it. There's also Boreal I can colonize with relative ease, so I think I'll grab the Boreal real quick before I grab the atoll. Although having access to Hyperion, that's also very powerful and very useful. So, Xenology, I'm gonna grab that in a matter of moments. Now there's one problem. After I set up an outpost on Ingris, it's very likely that the first population to come to Ingris will migrate from the Cravers territory, because when you set up outposts, you do not set them up with your own population. It's just, you know, a bunch of personnel, some workers, some scientists that invite civilians to come, and civilians can come from many different empires. In this case, they would most likely come from the Cravers Empire because it's fairly near. As you can see, there's their planet. It's much closer to this system than my system is. Which means that would get a Craver population. What's the problem with that? It means that the Craver population would eat my planet up, literally. But this is it. But this is okay for now, because we have another planet to exploit over there, and we have 50-10 limit anyway, so eating the planets up is not a very big problem for us. In a full game, it would be. Right now, it is not. Let us guard the system and wait until our detector has restocked on drones. Let's change the route of our incubator all the way to Ingris and change our plans yet again. Normally, I would definitely go for trading companies next. Sadly, I cannot, which annoys me to no end, because I wanted to show you how I typically play Endless Space 2, but, you know, the cool thing about 4X games is that you need to adapt in every game, and if I were to forcibly go for my typical build order in this game, I would be retarded. So instead, let's change things up. I don't need to make a military yet. I have some time before the Cravers actually make any aggressive moves on me. Instead, I need to make sure that I can sustain my empire with an unlimited amount of funds. So I need to go ahead and grab some dust that does not require me using the commercial framework. Or alternatively, I can increase the amount of science I gain, which will allow me to get even more technologies a little bit faster, which is again a fairly tempting idea. But that said, my systems are horribly underdeveloped, so going for some kind of system improvement wouldn't be a very good idea. Rather, I would be more keen on an empire improvement. Or, alternatively, I can get Denmark University, because it's a very big bonus to one planet in your empire. The problem is that it takes a long time to actually erect. So it might be a little bit too slow for our purposes right now, and we're on a tight clock. I can also go for maximized exploitation because it gives me access to converting industry into dust, but I'm not in a very dire straits just yet. There are actually a lot of things I could do in this current situation. Let's calm down for a second and think a little bit more. When will this planet become my own planet officially? 4 turns, so a lot of time. This system, it still needs to get its cerebral reality. But for the time being, I probably won't even bother with that. It's more important to get my industry research up and running, and then, well, at some point, I'll definitely need to have Hyperion capture because I have access to Hyperion. But again, that's some time away. So again, the more I think about it, the more I'm convinced I need an empire improvement that will be useful for us. So that will be... I need to think. 1 second. Alright, I made up my mind. I'm going to start off by getting neural robotics. Why? Because first of all, I will be able to use some of my luxury resources. I don't have too many of them yet, but I will be able to use them in the future, so that's something. Secondly, I'll have access to some more extra industry production, and right now my empire is suffering a ton from the lack of industry. I'm producing almost none of it, because of the planets I currently control, that being just one planet, our standing planet. So let us end my turn. By the way, you might be wondering, why am I not moving my scout from Ingris? The reason is actually fairly simple, I don't care about that. It is because on Ingris I'll set up an outpost with my colony ship. And one of the colony actions, as you can see right here, is this one, which allows you to leech food from enemy outposts, which is actually very useful. But you need to have some military presence to do it. And lucky for us, this scout ship does have the military presence to support such an action. So I'm keeping it right there just in case the Cravers have the same idea as I do and try to capture Ingris. I need this planet for myself quite badly. There's nothing that I need to do, I don't think. Yep, everything is queued up, nice and easy. Let's go ahead and queue up another production in my capital. Ignore the extra dust and science for now, because of how slowly we are developing new planets, new systems, where they're colonizing. It's more important to get more industry. So let's go ahead and queue that up real quick and end our turn. And because I want to split those videos up so I can upload them quickly, I'm probably going to end it right here, but before I do actually, I think I can colonize Ingris already, so let's go ahead and do just that. In fact, let's zoom in on it slightly because there are curiosities I can still see. On the Boreal, let's see what we have in terms of curiosities over here. Please be good. It is a seismic activity, really. I mean, it does give us some science, but the lower approval will be a very big problem because your people hate over-colonization in Endless Space 2. It's something that I assume will be balanced out in the future, because right now colonizing more planets than 2 or 3, yeah, it's kind of bad. Against an extra science, but that's a problem. Still, cannot research it. Actually, I do want to research technology for atolls in order to gain access to Hyperion. I could wait, but I don't have time to wait. I don't have the luxury. Let's colonize the Boreal. It could have been worse. And there we go, I'll leave it to colonize, and thankfully for us, the first population to arrive will be a Sophon population. So at least I won't eat my own planet up, which is nice. I'll leave that guy here, let him sleep for the time being, and end my video. Ladies and gentlemen, it was PANCZASU, also known as the Mighty Mix Spammer. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. Please spread the word. Again, it would be very helpful for me, and I would be very grateful for you if you help me spread the word. Thank you for watching yet again, and I'll see you online.